The airport smelled like cold metal and fresh beginnings. Luna stepped off the plane with a backpack full of books and a heart heavy with purpose. Her dark brown eyes scanned the unfamiliar faces, all moving in different directions, each with their own destinations. The air was brisk, different from the warmth of her home in Thatha, South Africa, where the sun kissed your skin even on cloudy days. This place, this foreign land, was going to be her bridge. A bridge to something better, not just for herself, but for her entire family. She clutched the handle of her small suitcase as she walked out of the terminal. The cold wind bit her cheeks, but she didn't flinch. She had prepared for worse. Luna was 22, but her soul often felt older. Life in her village hadn't been easy. Her father worked long hours in the fields until he fell sick, and her mother had taken up cleaning houses in nearby towns to support their 4 younger siblings. Her family's survival had often depended on whatever odd jobs she and her brothers could pick up during school breaks. Fetching water for the elders, selling handmade beadwork to tourists, even cleaning taxis at the local station. Money was never enough. Food, even less so. But Luna had always been different. While other children played, she read. While others dreamed of escaping through dance or music, she found freedom in science, books, and the idea of change. She was the first in her entire neighborhood to finish high school with top marks. And when the university acceptance letter arrived with a partial scholarship, it was as if God had opened the sky and handed her a miracle. The day she boarded the plane, her whole village had gathered to see her off. Women sang traditional songs. Her father, too weak to stand, watched from the truck, his eyes shining with pride and tears. "You are our hope, Luna," her mother had whispered before she left. "Go show them what our little girl can become." That sentence now echoed in her mind as she stepped into her new dormitory. The room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a closet. Everything smelled of sanitizing wipes and new paint. Her roommate hadn't arrived yet, and she was grateful for the silence. Luna sat on the bed, placed her suitcase on the floor, and took out a small, worn-out photo of her family. It was creased from how often she'd held it during the flight. In it, she stood between her parents, flanked by her younger siblings, all smiling with hope. She placed the photo on her desk, then pulled out her academic schedule. Biomedical sciences, first semester. Heavy coursework. Lab time. Volunteer hours. It wouldn't be easy, but she didn't come here for easy. She came here to rewrite her family's destiny. Luna was intelligent, methodical, and practical. But she was also shy. Social situations made her nervous, especially in English. Though she could write fluently, she sometimes struggled to find the right words when speaking. She often feared saying something wrong and being laughed at. So she stayed quiet, observed more than she spoke, and kept her thoughts to herself. In the days that followed, she immersed herself in her studies. She'd wake up at dawn, revise her notes, attend lectures, and spend her evenings in the library. Other students partied, dated, lived loud lives. Luna remained invisible, a quiet storm building slowly. She never complained, never questioned her decision. But sometimes, late at night, as she lay under the unfamiliar ceiling, she missed home. Missed the chaos of her siblings, the smell of pap and stew, her mother humming gospel songs while sweeping the floor. And yet, she reminded herself why she was here. She was here for her little brother, Wazi, who wanted to become a teacher. For her baby sister, Zinzi, who was too young to understand poverty, but old enough to feel its sting. She was here to make sure her father could one day get the treatment he needed. She was here to bring her mother peace. With every lecture she attended, every exam she passed, she felt closer to that dream. Her professors noticed her brilliance, though she rarely spoke. Her lab reports were immaculate. Her problem-solving was sharp. Some of her classmates tried to befriend her, but she always kept a polite distance, until one day someone broke through. A girl from a nearby town, with bold eyes and a free spirit. But that part of the story hadn't begun yet. For now, Luna was just the quiet girl from Africa, walking the halls of a new world with nothing but books in her bag, fire in her heart, and her family's hopes strapped tightly to her shoulders. She didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. The cafeteria always felt too loud for Luna. The clinking of plates, the buzz of laughter, and the chatter and accents she still wasn't used to made her retreat to the quiet corners. On most days, she'd sit near the window with her tray of food, usually untouched, and her notebook open beside her. She liked the sun on her face and the feeling that, even in a world where she didn't quite belong, the sun remained the same. That's where Emily first noticed her. Emily was everything Luna wasn't: bold, outgoing, and full of light. A 21-year-old literature student from a small nearby town, she wore her confidence like a second skin. Her laugh echoed through hallways. She always had a story to tell and an opinion to share. People were drawn to her. But on that particular afternoon, while everyone else laughed at some meme being passed around, Emily's eyes rested on the quiet girl by the window. There was something about her stillness, her focus, her quiet strength, that pulled Emily in. The first time they spoke, it was over a dropped pen. Luna had bent down to pick it up, and by the time she straightened, Emily was already handing it to her with a warm smile. "You're always here," Emily said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You read more than the library does." Luna had blinked in surprise, unsure how to respond. Then, slowly, a smile tugged at her lips. "I like quiet places." Emily nodded. "Me too, but I'm terrible at being quiet." From that day on, they began sitting together. It started simple: study sessions in the library, coffee breaks between classes, short walks around the campus garden when the lectures got too overwhelming. Emily talked a lot, and Luna mostly listened. But over time, Luna started opening up about her family, her home, the struggles she carried silently every day. Emily never judged, never pitied. She just understood. One rainy afternoon, as they sat under a tree waiting for the storm to pass, Emily handed Luna a tiny book of poems. "Want to know my secret?" she asked, grinning. Luna raised an eyebrow. "I write poems when I'm scared, or when I'm in love." The words hit Luna differently. She felt her chest tighten, her breath catch slightly in her throat. She wasn't sure why. Later that night, Luna read through the book. The pages were filled with raw emotion, about loneliness, yearning, the fear of being different, and the joy of being seen. There were lines that spoke to parts of Luna she hadn't dared to explore. She felt something stirred deep within her, something unfamiliar yet comforting. As the weeks passed, their bond deepened. They became inseparable. People began to notice the way they looked at each other, how they laughed at inside jokes, how Emily's touch lingered a second too long on Luna's hand. Luna, who had never dated anyone in her life, who had never even thought about love, because survival had always been more important, was changing. She started to feel something when Emily smiled at her. A warmth in her chest, a flutter in her stomach, a need to be near her, to hear her voice, to make her laugh. One evening, as they sat together in Luna's room watching a film, Emily rested her head on Luna's shoulder. "Do you ever feel like you're not meant to fit in the world the way it expects you to?" Emily asked softly. Luna turned to her. Every single day. Their eyes met, and in that moment, without needing permission or explanation, Emily leaned in and kissed her, gently, hesitantly, like asking a question with her lips. Luna froze, not out of fear, but because the kiss felt like truth, a truth she had buried beneath years of focus and sacrifice. Her whole life, she'd never stopped long enough to listen to her heart, and now, it beat so loudly she couldn't ignore it. When the kiss ended, Emily pulled back. "I'm sorry," she whispered, unsure. Luna shook her head. "Don't be." They sat in silence, their hands now intertwined, hearts racing in sync. For the first time since arriving in this foreign land, Luna felt seen, not just as a student, not as someone carrying the weight of her family's hopes, but as a person worthy of love. Their relationship blossomed in the shadows. They were careful, whispers in the library, late-night walks, secret notes passed in class. The world wasn't ready for them, and neither was the college. But in each other's arms, they found a small world that made sense. Luna had never imagined herself with anyone. She had always assumed she was too focused, too distant, too different. But Emily made her feel beautiful, brave, and wanted. And just like that, the quiet girl from Africa, who had come to this country with dreams of changing her family's future, now found herself changing in ways she had never expected. She had found love, not in the pages of her textbooks, but in the gentle presence of a girl who saw beyond the silence. And that love was about to be tested in ways neither of them could have imagined. At first, it was just a whisper, a sideways glance in the hallway, a pause in a conversation when Luna and Emily walked by. The shift was subtle, like a wind changing direction, enough to be felt but not yet loud enough to be named. But whispers have a way of growing louder in small spaces, and the college was just the right size for secrets to become stories. Someone had seen them holding hands near the back gate after class. Another had caught them sitting too close in the library. And that was all it took. The rumors spread like wildfire. Did you hear about Luna and Emily? Two girls, seriously? No wonder she's always so quiet. By the end of the week, they were the talk of the campus. Luna had never wanted attention. She kept to herself, studied hard, stayed out of drama. But now, every hallway felt like a battlefield. Every laugh felt like it was meant for her. The same people who used to ask her for class notes now stared at her like she was some strange exhibit. And the words cut deep. Dyke. Disgusting. She came all the way from Africa just to spread her filth here. At first, Luna tried to ignore it. She kept her head down, focused on her classes. She thought it would pass, that people would get bored and move on. But it didn't pass. The mocking became more direct. Girls sneering as she walked past, boys chuckling loud enough for her to hear. Someone even scribbled lesbo trash across her dorm door in red marker. It wasn't just hurtful. It was humiliating. One afternoon, as she entered the cafeteria, a group of boys at a corner table burst into laughter. One of them made an exaggerated kissing gesture to another boy, and then they all turned to look at Luna. Her hands trembled. Her tray slipped slightly in her grip. Her face burned with shame. She turned around and walked right out. That night, she locked herself in her room and cried hard. The sobs came from a place so deep inside her it frightened her. She buried her face in her pillow, wishing she could disappear. She had come here to chase dreams, to make her family proud, to build a future. And now, she felt like she was drowning in judgment, stripped of her dignity. A soft knock came at her door. It was Emily. Without saying a word, Emily entered, sat beside her on the bed, and wrapped her arms around her. Luna buried herself in her chest, letting the pain pour out freely. "I can't take it anymore," Luna whispered through tears. "Why are they so cruel? What did I do wrong?" Emily stroked her hair gently. "You didn't do anything wrong. Loving someone isn't wrong." "They hate me," Luna said. "They hate us." "Then let them," Emily said, her voice steady despite the pain in her own eyes. "They don't get to decide who we are or how we love." Luna looked up at her, eyes swollen. "But it hurts." "I know it does," Emily said. "And it will. But we're stronger than this. We have each other." In that moment, Luna realized just how much Emily meant to her. Through all the noise, the mockery, the shame, Emily had stayed. She didn't flinch, didn't run, didn't pretend they were just friends. She fought for what they had, and now she was here, wiping Luna's tears and giving her the strength to keep going. Over the next few days, things didn't magically get better. The whispers didn't stop, the mocking continued. But Luna started walking a little taller. She still hurt, but now she had armor, Emily's love. They began spending more time together outside, walking hand in hand without hiding. Not in rebellion, but in quiet defiance. In strength. In truth. Some people stared, others whispered, but a few smiled. Luna noticed that too. The few students who nodded at them in silent support. The professor who ignored the gossip and praised Luna's latest paper. The librarian who left a note on their table one afternoon. Be proud. Love wins. The college still felt cold at times, but Luna wasn't alone anymore. And sometimes, love blooms best in the cold, stronger, braver, and more beautiful than before. It started with small things Luna could easily brush off. She would wake up feeling more tired than usual, despite going to bed early. At first, she blamed it on stress. Midterms were around the corner, and the tension from the gossip and judgment at college never truly left her. Fatigue made sense, but then she started losing weight, not in a way that felt intentional or healthy. Her jeans became looser around her waist, and her cheekbones grew more pronounced. Emily noticed it first. "Are you eating properly?" she asked one evening as they studied in the library. "You look thinner." Luna smiled weakly and nodded. "Just tired, I guess." Then came the fevers. At first, they were occasional, light fevers that would pass with rest and medication. But within weeks, they became more frequent. She'd feel chills during the day, sweat through her sheets at night. Her body felt like it was betraying her. One morning, she stood in front of the mirror in the shared bathroom and barely recognized the girl staring back at her. The glow in her skin had dulled. Her eyes looked sunken, her lips dry and pale. Something wasn't right. She finally decided to visit the campus clinic. She didn't want to worry Emily, so she went alone, downplaying her symptoms to everyone else. The nurse checked her vitals and ordered a few tests. "Standard procedure," she said. Luna sat quietly in the small examination room, watching the wall clock tick away. The wait was long, but the real wait came when the doctor entered with a clipboard and a heavy expression. "Luna," he said gently, sitting down across from her, "we've received your test results." Her heartbeat quickened. "I'm afraid you've tested positive for HIV. Everything after that became a blur." She heard the words, but they didn't sink in at first. It felt like a movie, like someone else's tragedy unfolding before her eyes. She blinked at the doctor, trying to process what he'd just said. "HIV?" she whispered. He nodded slowly, explaining the results, the possible timelines, the treatments available, but none of it registered. All she could think was no. No, this couldn't be happening. Not to her. Not after everything she had worked for. She left the clinic in a daze, her hands shaking as she held the papers they gave her. Her legs carried her out of habit, back to her dorm room, where she collapsed on the bed and stared at the ceiling in stunned silence. Her dreams, everything she had hoped for, suddenly felt so far away. She had come to this country with a heart full of hope, determined to change her family's future. Her mother had cried when they said goodbye at the airport, telling her she was the pride of the family. And now she felt like a walking tragedy. She clutched the edge of her blanket and let the tears fall freely. The sobs racked through her body like waves, violent and unstoppable. Her chest ached, not just from fear but from shame. She didn't even know how or when it happened. How did it matter now? The fact was, it was real. Luna lay there for hours, curled up, feeling like her body was no longer her own. Her future had been rewritten in a moment, and the ink was permanent. She thought of her mother, her younger siblings. She had promised them a better life. She had imagined returning home with a degree, a job, a new beginning for them all. And now she wondered if she would even live long enough to see that day. Worst of all, she thought of Emily. She imagined telling her, imagine the look in her eyes, shock, sadness, fear. The very thought of breaking Emily's heart shattered her. "No," she whispered into the silence of the room. "I can't tell her. Not yet." She wasn't ready to face that. For now, she would carry the burden alone. She would protect Emily from the weight of this truth, at least until she figured out what to do. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Luna stared out the window with tears still lining her cheeks. The world outside looked just the same, but inside, everything had changed. Luna had been quiet for days. Since her diagnosis, she walked through the college halls like a ghost, present in body, but with her soul adrift. She smiled when Emily spoke. She even laughed sometimes. But inside, she was drowning in silence. Emily noticed the change. She tried to reach out, asking if everything was okay, but Luna kept brushing it off. "Just tired," she'd say. "Too much on my mind." One evening, as the winter wind howled outside their dorm, Emily knocked gently on Luna's door and let herself in. The room was dimly lit, warm but heavy. Luna sat at the edge of her bed, arms wrapped around her knees, staring blankly at the floor. Emily sat beside her in silence. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Emily whispered, "I need to tell you something." Luna turned slowly, meeting her eyes. Emily looked pale, like she had been carrying something for far too long. Her hands trembled as she placed them on her lap. A few weeks ago, before everything with us got serious, she began, voice cracking, for guys from campus followed me after a late class. Luna's breath caught in her throat. They cornered me behind the old science building. They touched me, Luna. They groped me, called me names, said horrible things about us. Luna's fists clenched. They laughed. One of them said, "Let's show this lesbian freak what a real man feels like." I managed to get away before it went further, but Emily's voice cracked completely. I didn't tell anyone. I was scared. I thought maybe they were just drunk or showing off, and I didn't want to make things worse. Luna's heart thundered in her chest. The images formed in her mind without permission. Emily, terrified, alone, cornered by those monsters. Every word burned like acid. She felt sick. But more than that, she felt rage. Her own pain, her diagnosis, her broken dreams, it all came crashing into that moment like a tidal wave. She had spent her life trying to stay quiet, stay focused, be good. She had followed the rules. She had sacrificed and suffered, all in hopes of a better future. And yet, here she was, HIV positive, shamed, hated, and now watching the person she loved suffer at the hands of cruel, careless boys. Something inside her snapped. She stood up abruptly, her eyes dark, her breath uneven. Emily looked up at her, worried. Luna didn't answer at first. Her mind was moving fast now, too fast. She wasn't just angry. She was done being a victim. They don't get to walk away from this, she said finally, her voice low but steady. They don't get to hurt you. Not you. Not me. Emily reached for her hand, unsure of what was happening. Luna, what are you thinking? Luna looked down at her with a cold fire in her eyes. I'm thinking it's time someone taught them what pain feels like. Luna didn't sleep that night. She sat alone in her room with the glow of her phone lighting her face, the air heavy with everything she had endured. Her mind replayed Emily's trembling voice, the vile laughter of those boys, the cruel echo of her diagnosis in the sterile hospital room. Her hands no longer shook with fear. They trembled with purpose. If the world wanted to turn her into a villain, she thought maybe it was time to become one. By morning, her plan had taken form. She would use the one thing those boys craved, the very thing they thought they had the right to take. Her body, her image, her smile. She would give them exactly what they wanted and let them live with what they took. Luna found them easily. These weren't boys who stayed quiet. They were loud, arrogant, and always online. She picked the first one, Kyle, a tall, athletic guy with an ego that made him an easy mark. Luna, hey, I know this is random, but can I tell you something a little weird? His reply came within seconds. Kyle, LOL, sure. What's up? She waited 5 minutes before replying, just long enough to seem unsure. Luna, I've been thinking, I don't know if I'm really into girls. I mean, Emily is sweet, but I think I might be missing out. Kyle, oh, damn eyes for real? That's interesting. He took the bait. Over the next 2 days, she mirrored the same approach with the other three, Liam, Derek, and Jace. Each conversation was carefully tailored. With Liam, she acted playful and shy. With Derek, bold and teasing. With Jace, she claimed she had dreams about him. All of it performed through a screen like a deadly game of chess. She told each of them that she and Emily had ended things. She told them she was lonely, confused, and curious. She told them she wanted to experiment. None of them hesitated. Their replies dripped with false charm and hidden hunger. But Luna played her part to perfection. She laughed at their jokes, complimented their bodies, even sent carefully crafted selfies, just enough skin to spark their desire, but not too much to raise questions. What none of them saw was the storm behind her smile. They believed every word. Their egos made them blind. After all, what girl wouldn't want them? They didn't see Luna's pain or her fury. They didn't notice how methodically she reeled them in, how she made each one feel like the only one she was talking to. Within a week, the trap was set. The boys began discussing plans, secret visits, late-night meetups, fun without strings attached. Luna acted hesitant at first, just enough to make them chase harder. Kyle, We should totally hang out this weekend. Just you and me. I'll keep it low-key. Luna, or maybe you bring your friends." She dropped that line casually. The hook was in. By the end of the week, all four boys thought they were on the verge of a fantasy. They had no idea they were walking into a nightmare, one that had already infected her blood and now sought to seep into theirs. Luna turned off her phone that night, placed it on the table, and sat in the silence. Not with guilt, but with grim satisfaction. She whispered into the darkness, "You wanted a lesson. Now you'll never forget it." It was a Saturday evening when they arrived, four overconfident boys wearing cologne like armor, each believing he was the chosen one. The street outside Luna's apartment buzzed with the soft hum of passing cars, but inside her small living space, a far more dangerous energy simmered. Luna stood before her mirror, dressed in a black satin robe that clung gently to her curves. Her lips, painted in a deep red, curled into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She wasn't nervous. Not anymore. Whatever fear she might have felt had died in the hospital room the day she got her diagnosis, or replaced it with something colder, darker, and far more focused. The doorbell rang. She opened the door slowly, like a scene rehearsed, letting it creak just enough to build suspense. The four of them stood there, Kyle, Liam, Derek, and Jace, each with a smug grin, thinking they were about to indulge in a secret fantasy. "Come in," she said, voice low and inviting. They entered, one by one, laughter and innuendo spilling from their lips. Her apartment was dimly lit, candles flickering in corners, casting shadows that danced along the walls. She had planned everything, the lighting, the mood, even the drinks waiting on the table. Every detail was designed to lower their guard. She poured them wine, letting her fingers graze theirs, watching their eyes track her every movement. They thought they were in control. They always did. But the truth was, she was orchestrating every moment. "Let's make this night unforgettable," she whispered. One by one, they followed her into the bedroom. The laughter quieted, replaced by gasps and whispers. Each encounter was passionate on the surface, but underneath, Luna's soul remained detached. Her body moved with practiced seduction, but her mind stayed elsewhere, repeating the same dark mantra. Remember what they did to her. Remember who they are. There was no protection. None of them questioned it. Luna made sure of that, with breathy promises, teasing touches, and words carefully chosen to turn hesitation into desire. She knew what buttons to press. She knew how to make them forget consequences in pursuit of conquest. Afterwards, they lay in lazy satisfaction, thinking they'd won some twisted prize. They didn't notice the blankness in her eyes. They mistook it for exhaustion. Over the next week, they returned, one by one, and sometimes together. Luna played her role flawlessly, laughing at their jokes, whispering flirtations, pretending to enjoy every moment. She kissed them softly, told them she liked this version of herself, and made them feel invincible. Inside, though, she was unraveling. Each time they touched her, each time they called her sexy or moaned her name, her fury burned deeper. But with it came a quiet satisfaction. They were already infected. Their fate was sealed, and none of them knew it. The irony was almost poetic. They thought she was their secret, but in truth, she was their curse. It started with Kyle. He had been feeling off, unusual fatigue, random night sweats, a cough that wouldn't go away. At first, he chalked it up to stress, maybe a hangover from too much partying. But as days passed, his unease grew. There was a heaviness in his chest, a chill that settled in his bones. And then the mouth ulcers came. That was the final push. He scheduled a checkup, casually mentioning his symptoms to the doctor. The blood test was routine. The weight wasn't. When a doctor called him back in, his tone was different, measured, cautious. "I'm sorry to inform you, Kyle, you've tested positive for HIV." The words felt like a gunshot. A sharp ringing filled Kyle's ears. He couldn't process it at first. He sat frozen, mouth dry, mind racing. HIV? How? He stumbled out of the clinic in a daze, heart pounding. His first call was to Liam. By the time he finished telling him everything, Liam had already gone pale. "No way, man. That's insane. But I've been feeling weird too." Within 2 days, all 4 boys had been tested. All 4 received the same news. They didn't speak right away. The shame was heavy, the silence unbearable. But when they did meet, crammed into Jace's garage, their faces pale and panic-stricken, it wasn't denial that lingered in the air. It was fear. They were infected. All of them. Then came a message. Kyle's phone buzzed first, then Liam's, then Derek's and Jace's. A text from an unknown number. "Luna, how are you boys feeling?" There was a pause, almost as if she were savoring the moment. Then another message followed. "Now you know what it feels like to be violated, used, broken, just like you broke her." Attached were screenshots, messages they'd sent her. Flirty, explicit, and photos. Not nudes, but intimate moments. One with Liam's shirt off. Another of Derek lying in her bed, asleep. Another of her lips pressed, lightly, to Jace's neck. Evidence. Proof. You thought you were playing me, but you were just pawns in a game you didn't understand. You ruined her. So I ruined you. Let this be a lesson. HIV doesn't care how charming you think you are. The final message made their stomachs turn. Now you know what it feels like to be ruined. They stared at their screens in horror. Kyle threw his phone across the room, shattering it. Liam cursed loudly, pacing back and forth. Derek broke down crying, while Jace sat silently, staring into nothing. The fury bubbled up quickly, but the fear was stronger. What if this got out? What if their families found out? Their classmates? The police? They wanted revenge, but they were just as scared of exposure. After all, what would people think when they learned they had been sleeping with a girl they once mocked and bullied? A girl who, in their arrogance, they thought was beneath them? They had been predators. Now, they were the prey. And Luna? She had vanished like smoke, leaving behind only silence and the truth that would haunt them forever. The fear eventually gave way to desperation. One by one, the boys walked into the police station, their heads lowered, their voices hesitant. They looked more like victims than the cocky, arrogant group they once were. The shame of their secret was now too heavy to carry in silence. They filed a formal complaint against Luna, accusing her of knowingly infecting them with HIV. Their testimonies painted a calculated seductress who had lured them into her trap. The officers listened, took notes, and asked follow-up questions with furrowed brows. Luna was arrested that evening. She didn't resist. She didn't cry. She only asked if she could call Emily. At the station, when questioned, Luna sat with an unnerving calm. Her wrists were cuffed, her eyes steady. "Did you knowingly expose them to HIV?" the officer asked. "Yes," she said, without flinching. The room fell into silence. "Why?" he asked. She took a breath, then looked straight into the officer's eyes. "Because they ruined someone I love, and because no one else was going to stop them." What started as a straightforward criminal case against Luna quickly spiraled into something bigger, something messier. During the routine evidence collection, Emily's name came up repeatedly. Her phone was taken in for analysis. It didn't take long for the authorities to find the messages, the vulgar, mocking, threatening texts the boys had sent her. Some were laced with cruel jokes about her being with a lesbian freak, while others hinted at physical assault. Then came the CCTV footage, grainy but clear enough, from a forgotten corridor camera in the college building. It showed Emily cornered against the wall by the same 4 boys. Her eyes darted around in fear. One of them grabbed her arm. Another leaned in far too close. The video cut before anything further could be seen, but it was enough. Emily was brought in for questioning. Her voice trembled at first, but Luna's arrest had sparked something inside her. Courage. She spoke the truth. "They touched me, laughed, called me disgusting, said they wanted to fix me. I didn't tell anyone because I was ashamed." The case exploded into public view. News stations picked it up. Headlines screamed, "College scandal, boys charged with assault, girl arrested for revenge plot." Social media lit up with debates. Some called Luna a monster, others called her a martyr. Protests erupted both in support of Luna and in outrage over the college's failure to protect Emily. The institution itself came under fire. Investigations were launched into the school's administration for ignoring harassment complaints and turning a blind eye to campus bullying. In the end, the legal consequences were real. Luna was charged for knowingly exposing individuals to HIV, serious charges that could not be undone. But the boys weren't spared either. With Emily's testimony and the mounting evidence, all four were charged with sexual misconduct and assault. The final scene unfolded in the quiet of a holding cell. Luna sat on the cold bench, her hands in her lap. There was no one else around, just the buzz of the flickering fluorescent light above. She leaned back against the wall, eyes closed for a moment. Then a slow, faint smile crept across her face. Not out of joy, not out of victory, but out of knowing she hadn't been just another victim. She had become the storm they never saw coming.